that sense too. But if I'm writing for myself, I know who I am. I want to be authentic, obviously, but I want my music to represent real life. So it's a long process, and it's just about living and letting the music just be a reflection of everyday life.
All right.
Church to that. Church to both.
Okay.
And everybody has their own approach. At the default of possibly sounding shallow, I'll bang on the wall.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
A melody strikes me, I hear a song, could be anything. I'll be singing in the kitchen while I'm cooking. I'll bang on the floor. I'll work out the choreography. I'll get the energy in my soul for myself or anybody that I'm working with, and record that.
Well, which kind of led me to the second question, but I think you kind of answered it, at least for you, Socks. Are you always creating, or do you have to put yourself in an environment to create? Like, are you?
I get bored quickly with things, so no, I'm not. I am always creating, but not always creating music. Right. So I walk away from it. I put it down as long as I can hit the deadline. Right. Circle back to give it some oxygen. Give it some time, especially with such a barbaric and Neanderthal type approach to music. I literally will bang on the wall with the mic rolling if that's the drum it calls for.
If I can elaborate on that, I'm not always creating, but I'm always ready to capture a creative idea or moment. I've learned that letting ideas that come to you slip away is like one of the most painful things, right? So I make sure that I always have, if it's a phone, it's like capture the moment, because that's like a blessing, that's a gift, those creative moments.
Say carpe diem. Carpe diem. Seize the day.
Yes,
Carpe diem. With all things, but especially with your fleeting ideas.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cut you, but there's a cool thing. It reminds me of, if anybody's familiar with Iceberg Slim. He's a novelist, right? But he's also a pimp. And he said this thing about weed. And what was interesting, he compared a pimp's mind on cocaine is the sharpest it'll ever be. On weed, it feels like trying to wrestle or corral greased horses, your ideas. They fly away, they are fleeting. Now, I'm not telling you to pick a drug, but what you're describing is when an artist is like, how do you capture that thing? I use, voice notes as well. I'll be knocking, pardon my French, I'll be knocking motherfuckers out with voice notes. Voice notes save the day. Exactly what you're talking about. It's like, ooh, there it is. Do the beatbox.
And how dope is it when you do create that beat and then you go back to the voice note and you're like, yeah, okay, I got it.
That right there is actually a fun thing to look back at. Like, if you ever listen to the Kendrick Untitled album, there's a moment where you get to hear the voice note and then hear the record after. You know what I mean?
You get to use it as an interlude of sorts.
You do.
An intro, yeah.
But now thinking about, like, just to add on to what you guys said, like, I'm definitely a big fan of capturing the moment. I guess where I would answer your part is I'm not always creating in a day, but in the studio, I'm always ready to capture moments the people having the moment don't realize is being captured. That's like something I try to specialize in, you know what I mean? Because like when moments are just so pure, it's already music. The structure of the moment will be intellectualized after, you know what I mean? But how quick are you on the draw to just capture it? And not even announce it's being captured, you know what I'm saying? So like that's the way that I create passively. It's not necessarily all the time, but when I'm in the space when I can, I try to just be so sensitive to the moments that I'm just like ready to press the button, you know?
And please don't stop.
Yeah, it really means it, because I've mixed some tracks by this guy, and sometimes I'll get a file that's just like the most random multi-track, but it's something that you can tell was a moment of inspiration that he captured quickly, but it's an integral part of the sound of the music, and I think that's really important important as creators to capture performances, because that's what we do. We perform. We capture performances. It's not about like splice, okay, splice, okay, sample, sample. Those are someone else's performances, right? But if you can capture your own performances, how much more authentic is it going to be? And it really is like working with this guy. So
I like the moments, you know? I like what you say, like, you guys, we're all peers, you know? Community is at the root of what we all do, you know? And like those jokes you told in the room, or that memory you reflected on in the studio that day, all of those things become a part of the art you're making in that moment. So whatever anybody chooses to play that day, capture that. Because it's real energy in that. And that's like the flyest part of what I think we all enjoy. You know what I mean? The feel.
For sure, it's authenticity. I think that was the word that Beach Out that used, and I think that's it. That's capturing that. Now, when it comes to songwriting, do you feel you do your, I don't know if it's your best songwriting by yourself, or do you feel like it's more collaborative, is where things kind of, I don't know, more effective?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Alone.
I kind of, the core ideas, definitely alone, because I think it might be something to do with being a producers. We have very vivid visions of where we want something to go, and we see things from multiple vantage points. So when it comes to like the songwriting, I feel like we see things really clearly. And for me personally, I often have like jump-off idea is very clear to me. The story is very clear to me. Sometimes I like to bring on other writers when I feel like I'm stuck, or I want to explore other angles to elaborate on it. But I love co-writing though. I must say co-writing I think is one of the most important things as a creative. If you haven't done it, I think it's something you should explore and really exhaust, because when you find like people who are better than you, especially in certain elements, you learn so much. So,
I agree with what Santa said. As far as like my personal habits, like I used to MC, that was my main sword as a creative. And as I became a producer, I started to find that I enjoy creating with people more, because it was more my fascination of the randomness of the alchemy, right? Because you got people that don't know each other from anything. Yeah, it's ingredients, right? Because it's
something
like,
from nothing, brother. Something from
right.
nothing.
And when you get people to ground on some random common thing that they both share, you can't plan what they're going to make. And that's where I like to live, because we're like all fascinated about making the new, but you can't plan the new. The new has to be a product of a real moment. You know what I mean? So like an example, I had like Toby in the studio with a homie from Vancouver, and he wanted Toby on the record. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna kick it in the studio. And then after Toby's like, yo, what made you write the song? He's like, well, there's this author that I'm a really big fan of. He told him author. He's like, you know what? I read that same book. Like, I'm a fan of the same author. Had nothing to do with the music. They both like the same author. Toby wrote that thing super quick. You know what I'm saying? So that's the power of like letting people around and make people mix. You know what I mean?
I'll say, I know it was short, it was alone, but the reason why it's alone is because of what both of these professionals mentioned. Within my tenure and my experience, I've been able to gather some of the greatest resources of artists on the planet who are better than me at things. I start alone, and I stand alone, but I pay my resources.
Pay your resources, yeah, for real. Yeah, because we're all like, you know, we're each other's community and economy too, you know what I'm saying? That's a big one you just dropped on us right there, because like, we should be able to respect the value of our peers the same way we want our art to be respected. So I'm truly a big fan of paying my peers. Notice the word is fan, because I'm proud to do it. You know what I mean? Like when you support your homie at their rate, they get to like evolve their lifestyle and life and artistic ability. through that. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you blessed me with a big one today. When you said like, yo, you're getting to live and sustain off the art, like, that's the biggest compliment you can say, because it doesn't matter how grand is the fact that you could live your life daily doing art. You know what I'm saying? So like a part of that is being proud to support your peers financially for what they do, because they decide to do that and just that. You know what I mean?
For sure. Give that up, man. Process most recently. I don't know if there's like new gear, new instruments,
Stems
new
is whooping
inspiration.
everybody ass right now. Stems is whooping everybody ass. I find that they're new producers or music beat makers. I find that they're a little overexcited about this stems thing, like, oh, and then old producers are like, oh, I could go to my old records, you know, and bring them back to life, just get the drums. Stems. Okay, I'm sorry. So for those who don't know, there is an algorithm set up in a few different programs where you could put an old song, say a James Brown song, and once you process it, you get 5 different files, all